In the East, there is a classic tale about a hide-and-seek told by various masters, but they all go something like this. In the beginning, there was only God, so God had no one to play with except God. Therefore, God created a game of hide-and-seek, but the only way he could do this was to pretend that he was who he wasn't, and that he wasn't who he was. In other words, God could only play this game by forgetting himself. God got lost in each of us and in all of our drama in order to experience adventure, even if this sometimes turns out terribly. Even the worst suffering is like a bad dream, and it is all over when God wakes up. Imagine that you were an all-powerful and all-knowing entity, and your existence is only eternal bliss. Would you choose this existence if you could? What if the only way to make things interesting would be to hide from what you are, or to be exactly what you are not, in a game of pretend? Suddenly, the game would be afoot, and there would be great drama and excitement in finding yourself. Of course, you could never know this was a game, or it wouldn't work. Would you want to watch a movie without conflict, a villain, and a challenge to overcome, featuring characters that have no goal and nothing to achieve? In this movie, things are fine just as they are. The actors sit in meditative bliss, or go for walks in nature, or hold hands, all while we watch. It is difficult to imagine such a movie, and more so to think you might enjoy it. Even with the best actors and special effects, it would likely be a record-setting flop. How much fun would it be to gamble in a casino that you owned? There would be no way to really win, because if you did win, you would lose, and if you lost, you'd still win. The only way to have fun in your own casino is to forget that you are the owner. Only then would the wins be a rush and the losses seem tragic, even if neither was really the case. While it may sound strange to suggest that this is what's happening to us, I think, or rather I feel, that this story points to the true nature of our existence. Perhaps an all-powerful eternal force would do exactly what is happening right now, hiding from itself in billions of ways, within you right now reading this sentence, unaware of its essence and at the same time realizing everything is in perfect harmony. All play, all adventure requires a challenge that must be overcome, or an evil force that must be fought against and destroyed. The Christians call this evil or sin. The Buddhists call it the three poisons: fear, greed, and delusion. The Freudians call it the id, and Jung called it the shadow. But it's the same mechanism woven into the fabric of a universe intent on play and an unending mystery. The issue with any game, even this grand universe game, is that unless there is a possibility of defeat, and it has to be real defeat, there is no game. The grand game of all games is the game of life and death. If death didn't seem real, the game would be meaningless. Death seems like a real, genuine defeat, because if it didn't, we would lose interest in the game. I remember when my son was young, and I would chase him, pretending that I was a monster. He would yell over and over again, laughing, "A monster is going to get me!" Likewise, I would hold him, leaning back as he almost fell off my lap, and we would play the game of "Don't Let Me Go," with both of us laughing over and over, and each time I would extend him a little farther and make the game a little more exciting. This is the early form of drama without the seriousness we give it later in life, when we forget that the original nature of drama is to play. As adults, our monsters become very real, taking such forms as financial ruin, loneliness, job loss, sickness, and death. As adults, we've come to really believe that monsters can get us, and that we will be devastated by this. Somehow, a game that started with a built-in safety valve and the inability to stop laughing ends up in stress, depression, and anxiety. Not coincidentally, as our bodies get older, our sense of self becomes more established, and our propensity to experience mental suffering grows too. Next, consider this. What if the way to win the game of life is to discover experientially that it's all a game in the first place, and that you are the creator of the game? I emphasize the experience of this discovery, and I suggest that this is what happened to the Buddha, Lao Tzu, and other ancient masters from the East so long ago. In their case, identification with the self collapsed, and so did all the mental suffering that went with it. If mental suffering has any benefit, perhaps it is to help you wake up to the game, to the grand drama that is this existence. As it is put in Buddhism, when there is no mud, there is no lotus flower. The Buddha was supposedly protected from suffering early in life, and if he had never ventured out to explore suffering, he would have never had his insights. If not for your suffering, you would not be where you are right now. Let's conclude with a few explicit pointers on playing this cosmic game. One way to play the game is to dismiss or forget the ideas presented here and continue to believe that the left brain is in fact you. You keep your identity and keep playing a role in this theatrical world we call modern society. In this realm of categories and interpretations, there are good days, but there are also bad days. There are friends, but also enemies. In this left-brain world you can win, but sometimes you will lose. There is the thrill of victory, but also the anxiety over defeat. The game is played with a dreadful sense of seriousness and urgency, as if it isn't a game at all. Of course, there are some downsides in this approach. Life is viewed as short. Death and disease are the enemy, and you must work as hard as you can for as long as possible, trying to win with the most possible credits, be they material or spiritual. Like most of us, your actor ego is likely cast as only an extra in the background of the world's stage, but there's always the chance for stardom, and for that chance, many accept the suffering. There's nothing wrong with this choice, and currently and historically, it is the most popular option on the planet. In a way, for those who are totally ignorant of all these ideas, we could say that they are playing the game so well that their left brains should be congratulated. Going to the other extreme, another option would be to wholeheartedly pursue activities associated with the right side of the brain, in a search for what many refer to as enlightenment. Taking this option to the fullest means following a path similar to the saints, masters, and monks of the world's great spiritual traditions, and of course the Buddha. Meditation, mindfulness, prayer, yoga, and maintaining a focus on compassion, gratitude, and the interconnected nature of all existence are all great places to start. Ultimately, how to get there is largely a mystery, and certainly something that cannot be articulated fully in words. But there are many signs and pointers the adepts have left behind. If this is your calling, then I bow to you and wish you well in your journey. A third option is what one might call a middle path, where you have one foot in each of the other two options. In this option, you take the game just seriously enough that you cheer when your kid wins a soccer game and feel sad when you don't get a promotion at work. Of course, in either case, you don't take either the victory or defeat too seriously, because behind them both you maintain a hint of a smile And this smile symbolizes your understanding that without losing there can be no winning, and that every win ultimately depends on a loss. In this middle path, you might look at a trashy magazine in the grocery store and simultaneously see it as gossipy nonsense and an expression of human creativity and spirituality. You might feel a surge of anger when someone cuts you off in traffic, while at the same time be laughing internally at the silliness of the drama. There may be moments when you experience the egoless consciousness and the total embrace of no self, no problem. But then a few minutes later, your ego kicks in when a coworker walks by and ignores you. In fact, you may already be playing the game in exactly this way. Maybe you meditate, practice mindfulness, and feel very spiritually grounded when you do. And later the ego comes back online and is frustrated to find out that you've run out of coffee. You take a yoga class and feel great, but curse the person that left a scratch on your car when you leave to go home. To become aware of these machinations of the mind without becoming attached to them is a kind of modern middle path. No matter your choice in how to play, my hope is that by reading this book and becoming familiar with the left brain interpreter and how it works, you can start to take it a little less seriously. Doing so will most certainly lessen your suffering. You may even stop trying so hard to change certain things in your life, or to become this or that in the future, because you begin to notice that the problems you're trying to overcome are mostly creations of the left brain interpreter, and you see how once they are overcome, the left brain interpreter will simply create new ones. This can also be true even for those pursuing a strict spiritual path, as indicated by the words of former Harvard professor Richard Alpert, now known as Ram Dass, when he said, "All spiritual practices are illusions created by illusionists to escape illusion." On this middle path, on one foot you consider that the real you is already perfect and at peace, and that's good because the left brain interpreter has no real power to create change in your life anyway, because it's a mirage, though I'll bet your left brain interpreter is objecting to this right now. Think of it this way. Can the smoke above a factory do anything to change the workings of the factory itself? How frustrating would it be to believe that the fictional character Sherlock Holmes could solve a mystery in the real world? When we get this, we begin to see that we are right where we need to be, doing exactly what we need to be doing. So, while several explorations have been offered in this book to help you get out of your left brain, perhaps the real you already is, and it's not worried one bit. This is the type of paradox that frustrates the interpreter, but to experience this is to experience the playful nature of reality, which takes us back to the story of God playing hide-and-seek. People enjoy a scary movie or an amusement park ride because they know that they are actually safe. In this same sense, this universal consciousness knows everything is safe, even in what the left brain categorizes as horrific tragedies. If you were an all-powerful, all-knowing consciousness, you could never know sadness, loss, anxiety, surprise, or the excitement of not knowing what will happen next. An all-knowing consciousness could not enjoy jokes or cry at tragedies. By playing the game, consciousness delights in every experience possible, and the only way to do that is for it to lose itself in us. If you want to have an infinite set of experiences, create fictitious egos that take themselves seriously and program them to always desire what they do not have. In the same way that a glass of water is exponentially more satisfying after a 5-mile hike in the desert, the experience of feeling the interconnectedness of everything is more fulfilling after the illusion of separation. This is the fun of the game. This is the fun of waking up. This game is a privilege and an adventure, but it is also sometimes a comedy and sometimes a tragedy. The whole of it makes up a tapestry such that you cannot selectively pull one part out and leave the others behind, because they are all interwoven, defining each other, and even giving existence to each other. Perhaps the real you knows this perfectly, because it wove the tapestry together in the first place. If this book has served its purpose, it has been a reminder that there is no place to go and nothing in particular to do, because you are already there and already doing it. Except, of course, that there isn't even a real you anywhere doing anything. Or perhaps we could say it is also everywhere and doing everything. That might make an excellent koan on which to meditate. Exploration. Who am I? In a variety of spiritual traditions, one of the most powerful questions to ask oneself is, who am I? Rather than answer with the left brain interpreter via descriptive labels, comparison, categories, or pattern perception, try and turn your mind inward to see if you can find the source of the I thought. You could do this in a meditation setting, but it need not be reserved for such a time, as you can really try this at any time during the day, even if just for a few seconds. As you do this, consider that the answer to the question may be a feeling rather than a thought, one that is found in the space and the silence that is all around us. Other related questions to ponder as you undertake this exploration are as follows. Am I the name someone gave to me? Am I the gender that was assigned to me? Am I the job that I work at? Am I the social roles that I play? Am I the age society tells me I am? Am I the intelligence society defines me as? Am I my level of education? Am I the body that others define me as? Am I the thoughts in my head? Am I the memories that I think happened? Am I my preferences, that is, the things I like? Am I my desires? Am I my emotions? Am I my beliefs? Am I my reactions? Am I my expectations? Am I the movies that play in my mind? Am I a mystery? The real you cannot be put into words, categories, labels, beliefs, emotions, or anything that can be labeled as known.